Welcome to UGC Pachala, PG Learning and Food Science. I am Shajini Judith, Assistant Professor from the Department of Home Science, Women's Christian College, Chennai. And in this module, I will be discussing with you the importance of selecting a good location and also the importance of a good layout in the establishment of a food premises. So this module will introduce you to the importance of having a good design and a good layout in the construction of a food service establishment, and also attention to good hygiene, design, construction, appropriate location, and the provision of adequate facilities is necessary to enable hazards to be effectively controlled in a food service establishment. So while selecting a location for starting a catering establishment, the proprietor has to take into account many important factors. So as many of you here also have certain ambitions in life, like becoming an entrepreneur or running a hotel or a restaurant in the future, you might also be interested in learning these factors. So before starting a catering establishment, some of the factors that need to be taken into consideration are the cost of land and construction of building, or the rent which will have to be paid for a ready site, which that is for a site that's already been constructed, and the overhead costs incurred will also be should also be taken into account. Then the equipments, the fittings, the fixtures and the furnishings that are required in the food service establishment also has to be taken into account. And then the number and type of potential customers who would throng your food service outlet will also be given importance and taken into account. So the catering establishment, or the food service establishment that you are going to start should take into account the nature and type of your potential customers, because satisfying the customer should be the first and foremost duty of the person who is running the food service establishment. Apart from these considerations, it is also necessary to give a careful thought to the hygiene aspect. This is very crucial for the business to run successfully. Otherwise, a large portion of money would be spent on trying to maintain hygienic standards in the establishment. Now, there are certain important aspects which should not be neglected while you are selecting the location or planning the layout of the food service establishment. First, take into account the surrounding atmosphere or the surrounding environment. The surrounding atmosphere should be free from pollutants like smoke, dust and fumes. People will not like to visit food service establishments that are located in areas or located close to polluted areas, or where they find the environment is not pleasant. The vicinity or the area around the establishment should also be clean. Garbage dumps and stagnant water should not be found anywhere near the vicinity of the food service outlet, because this will encourage breeding of rodents, flies and mosquitoes, and high-end customers might not prefer to visit food service establishments that are found in localities that are not clean. So the ambience of the area also is of great importance while choosing the location and planning the layout of the food service establishment, because even now as customers we are pleased to visit only restaurants and hotels that look beautiful and clean, and we also give a lot of attention to these small things when we visit a hotel or a restaurant to eat dishes of our choice. Water supply is another important thing. Water is very vital for all the activities that take place in the food service establishment. Literally everything will come to a standstill without adequate supply of water. So an adequate supply of potable water should be available round the clock, and the premises should have sufficient storage tanks, wash basins and sanitary conveniences which are suitably located. And proper sewage disposal facilities should also be available, and very important. Lighting and ventilation. Natural light and ventilation is preferred in all the premises because it creates a clean atmosphere and a good ambience. Dark and dingy rooms and passages should be avoided. So the customers will not prefer places like this. Basement kitchens will need special lighting and ventilation, and careful consideration while planning windows and drains is necessary to prevent contamination of food. Now the space also should be given a lot of importance and should be designed taking into consideration many aspects, like for example, in the kitchen the work area should be large enough to ensure safety at work. It should provide convenience and comfort to all the workers who work in the kitchen, and there should be adequate space so that there is no overcrowding in the kitchen, and also crisscrossing of traffic lines can be avoided if the space is properly managed, and queuing at sinks and wash basins also should be prevented, and the space should be utilized in such a way that it should reduce unnecessary walking, and also ensure adequate work tables and storage space. This will ensure that all the activities go on properly, and there should also be storage facilities or space to keep the cooked food and the raw food apart. If the work area is not well planned, the employee may tend to overlook hygienic practices while handling food. A poorly set up establishment leads to wastage of time and energy, frustrations and difficulties, and increases the likelihood of accidents. In short, it affects the overall work achieved in terms of quality and quantity. The kitchen and dishwashing area should generally be approximately half the size of the service area. Each worker to work efficiently requires a floor area of about 3 meters square to enable him to work comfortably. So the minimum size of the kitchen, taking into consideration the work area required by each worker, should be about 9.3 meters square, and the ceiling should be a minimum height of 2.5 meters. And in the service area, tables and chairs should be well spaced. There should be no overcrowding. The waiters should be able to serve and wait on all the customers and clear and clean all the tables comfortably. So for a restaurant that has a capacity of 50 covers, the space required is 1.4 meters square if the capacity exceeds 50 covers. Now let's discuss about the layout of a food service establishment. A well planned and designed food service area is a prerequisite for maintaining high standards of sanitation. Premises should be planned to facilitate cleaning, and all equipment should be designed and arranged to prevent accumulation of soil and contamination of food. An ideal situation would be one where things move forward in orderly progression, beginning from receiving food in the stores to preparation, service and cleaning up. If food has to move through a shorter distance, and if it is handled less, then the chances of it getting contaminated will be greatly reduced. Otherwise, if the food has to go through a long distance and then from the area where it is procured to the kitchen, then there will be many people handling it, and the chances of food being contaminated is also very high. While planning the layout, it is necessary to understand the purpose of every piece of equipment and every room, and avoid wastage of money and space by building unnecessary corridors or rooms of inappropriate sizes. And the receiving area should be located very near the stores. The stores should be so located that such that the food is brought in by the shortest route. Now this entrance through which the food comes in is separate. It should be separate from the customer entrance and opens into a cemented yard. so that there's adequate space to store the goods. Adequate space should also be provided for delivery vans to stop in front of the door and deliver goods at the doorstep. The gas bank and garbage bins can be located in the yard. Now the storage area, this includes the dry food store, the cold store and the frozen stores. All these areas should be located near the goods receiving entrance, and each area should have a sink, a drain and a garbage bin, so the vegetables and the fruits can be washed, they can be drained and then stored in the walk-in refrigerators or the freezers, and the waste collected in the garbage bin. The kitchen is one of the main areas in a food service establishment, and it is divided into two areas, the hot kitchen and the cold kitchen. The kitchen should be accessible only to the employees of the food service establishment or the kitchen employees, and it cannot be used as a thoroughfare or a shortcut to reach other parts of the building, because this can refraining others from entering into the kitchen, pilferage can be avoided, and the contamination of foods also can be prevented. Depending on the size and type of establishment, the kitchen can also be divided into separate rooms for separate activities to happen, or all sections or activities can be included in one large room, and different areas can be demarcated for different activities. The main point to be kept in mind here is that the flow of work should not be hampered. And while planning the kitchen layout, begin with listing down the following aspects. What are the different sections which need to be included? What is the nature of work that has to go on or has to take place in these sections? And what are the type of equipments which are going to be installed? And how well ventilation can be provided through natural or artificial means? And water supply, think about the water supply, and also about the location of sinks and drains. They have to be ideally placed. They should not affect the work space or hamper the workspace, and the furnitures and fixtures that need to be used or planned in a kitchen. So while planning a kitchen, these things definitely need to be taken into account. Now in the kitchen area, the kind and volume of equipment, the furniture and fixtures required will depend upon the type of the establishment, the volume of business and the space available. If the space is going to be a constraint in a food service establishment, it is advisable to utilize the wall space. So we can go in for built-in cupboards, fixed racks and shelves, as well as folding or collapsible furniture, because they will not use up a greater or large floor space. All fixed equipments and shelves should be easy to clean. Other equipments should be arranged so that there is sufficient area for routine cleaning. Cooking ranges can be placed in the center of the room. They should be away from doors in order to keep the dust and the air draught away. They should have a canopy or a hood and an exhaust fan to remove the fumes and the odor from the kitchen. Otherwise, it's very difficult to work in the kitchen with all the fumes around the employees. The sinks also should be placed against the external wall in such a manner that it is very close to the drain, and each work table should ideally have a removable garbage bin fitted on a trolley placed under the table. So this enables the people who are working in the kitchen, as they cut and chop, and if they have to clear the waste, they simply throw the waste into the garbage bin without littering the space, and this also contributes to the cleanliness of the kitchen. All work tables should be movable and easy to clean. In the kitchen area, the rice boiler and the potato peelers, they find a important position in the kitchen. So the rice boilers and the potato peelers can be located near a drain. It should be fitted with a strainer and a trap for catching the waste. The dry preparation zone of the kitchen should have running hot and cold water sinks. Sufficient storage space should be provided for small equipments so that they can be stacked on these shelves when they are not in use. And pots and pans also can be stored upside down on racks or on slotted angles or shelves. And pots and pans with long handles can be stored on hooks. I mean, they can be hung from hooks. And no utensils or food should be placed on the floor. The refrigerator should be placed in or should be located in a cool place in the kitchen as far as possible, far away from the source of heat. And every kitchen should definitely have a freezer, chiller, and cooling equipments to store fruits, vegetables, and other perishable items. And they can all, and it becomes more convenient if the chiller, the freezer, and the cooling units are they are all present in the same unit, so it saves space. And a separate area should be demarcated for washing, the washing up area. And so a separate washing up area should be available for pots and pots and pans, and for the crockery and cutlery. The pots and pans should be, there should be a separate washing area for the pots and pans very close to the preparation area. And for cleaning the crockery and the cutlery, the washing area can be near the pantry. Now this washing up, the washing up area or the wash area should not be located near food preparation or the storage areas. And the sinks that are used for washing pots, pans, and crockery should not be used for hand washing or washing foodstuff for hygienic reasons. So they should be exclusively used only for washing pots and pans and for the cutlery and crockery. Washed and dried dishes should be stored in a clean, they should be stored in clean dry cupboards located near both the kitchen and the service area. So it becomes easier to pick them up whenever it is necessary. The crockery store should be protected from pests and dust. Plates can be stacked on drying racks, and cups can be stored bottom upwards in wire trays. So in this way you are also saving on space. And cutlery can also be stored in partitioned drawers or in partitioned covered boxes or trays. The service linen cupboard should definitely be close to the dining area. The pantry should be located between the kitchen and the dining area and should allow forward flow of food from the kitchen to the restaurant or the dining area. The restaurant should have two doors, definitely two doors, one leading in from the pantry to bring in the dishes, and the one leading to the wash up area to clean up the used dishes. Now staff rooms for the employees are, attention should be paid to the staff rooms for the employees also. And it is also, taking into the welfare of the employees. They should be provided with well ventilated staff rooms. These staff rooms can also serve as changing rooms. So they should be equipped with lockers, and these lockers should be provided for all employees. The locker should be large enough to accommodate hangers, and protective clothes and outdoor clothes should be kept separately. The use of the kitchen as a changing room or a staff room should definitely be discouraged. And clothes hanging or drying the clothes in the food preparation area is not only unsightly but unhygienic as well. The changing room should have good washing facilities. A linen basket must be provided for storing the dirty linen. Laundering, repair, and replacement of worn out protective clothing is the responsibility of the management. And facilities should be adequate, convenient, hygienic, and well stocked. Separate sanitary accommodation is necessary for employees and customers and should be readily accessible at a distance of 3 meters. These rooms should once again be well equipped. Separate rooms should be provided for males and females and labeled accordingly. Sanitary towel disposers or bins should be fitted in the ladies' toilets with instructions for use clearly mentioned, or they should be disposed by wrapping in disposable bags and discarding in a covered bin. Toilets should be well lit and properly ventilated. They should not open directly into the food area. A well ventilated corridor or space between the toilets and food preparation area or service area is a desirable feature. Adequate toilets and wash basins should be provided. Wash basins should be made of porcelain or stainless steel and should be used for hand washing only. A continuous supply of hot and cold water should be ideally available at each wash basin. Soap should be kept in a suitable container. Each basin should have a food operated bin for disposal of towels, etc. Alternatively, a warm air dryer can also be provided. They are the most hygienic way of drying hands. Instructions for operating the hand dryer should be displayed near the machine. After discussing the sanitary accommodations that are important in a food service establishment, let us also concentrate on the structural hygiene of a good layout. So in this we will be discussing about the specifications of walls, floors and ceilings and also windows in a food service establishment. The walls should be heat resistant behind the cooking equipment, and suitable finishes for walls in kitchens or food premises should be either tiles or PVC cladding. Now moving on to the floors. Floors should be smooth, durable, impervious, non-slip and easy to clean, and unnecessary slopes or steps should be avoided. The floors should also be free from duckboards, mats and sawdust. Wall floor junctions should be covered for ease of cleaning, and where appropriate, floors must allow adequate drainage. Where duckboards and mats are used, they should be easily cleanable and cleaned on a regular basis. The use of sawdust is generally not recommended, but if it is used, it should be kept to a minimum. And moving on to the specification of these ceilings. The ceilings should be smooth, light colored and easy to clean. Ceilings and fixtures must be designed to prevent the accumulation of dirt, reduce condensation and minimize mold growth. Then moving on to the windows and doors. Doors must be smooth, tight fitting and easy to clean. Opening windows should have insect proof screens which can be easily removed for cleaning. If contamination is likely, windows should not be opened during work. Example, if there is a building construction work or a road work taking place near the food premises, or if there is passing traffic, then these insect proof screens or the windows need to be kept closed. After looking into the structural specifications of the floors, the windows and the ceilings in a good layout of a food service establishment, let us also look at something called as food hygiene legislation, which is also considered as something that is very important in strengthening the structural conditions of all food premises and food stalls. The design, layout and construction of the food premises should permit adequate cleaning and or disinfection, and it should also offer protection against the accumulation of dirt, toxic materials, food debris and the formation of condensation or mold in the work surfaces. The good hygienic practices must be followed, including the protection against cross contamination between and during operations, and cleaning equipment and materials used in the kitchen, and water and air supply and personal hygiene also should be given importance. After paying attention to the importance of food hygiene in the kitchen and in the work areas of the food service establishment, it is also good to pay attention to the first aid equipments that are available in a kitchen in a food service establishment. The kitchen is a place where small accidents can happen, so it is necessary to keep these first aid equipments handy in order to attend to the needs of the employees if they hurt themselves in the process of working in the kitchen. Guides to good food safety practices recommends businesses have adequate and appropriate first aid equipment. In small businesses, a person should be appointed to take charge of first aid kit and call an ambulance if required. In large businesses, a qualified first aider may be required. A first aid kit should always be placed in a strategic position in the food service establishment, and the first aid kit should contain the following items. It should have a guidance card on providing basic first aid, then individually wrapped sterile adhesive dressings and brightly colored or with a thin metal strap dressings that are brightly colored with a thin metal strip should also find a place in the first aid kit, and sterile eye pads and individually wrapped triangle bandages, individually wrapped sterile unmedicated wound dressings and disposable gloves should also be provided in a first aid kit. So let us summarize all that we've been concentrating on in this module. So depending on the nature of the operation and the risks associated with them, food service establishments, equipments and facilities should be located, designed and constructed to ensure that contamination is minimized. Design and layout permit appropriate maintenance, cleaning and disinfection, and minimize airborne contamination. Surfaces and materials, in particular those in contact with food, are non-toxic in intended use and where necessary suitably durable and easy to maintain and clean. Where appropriate, suitable facilities are available for temperature, humidity and other controls, and there is effective protection. With this module, we have understood that proper selection of a location is imperative. Otherwise, maintaining standards of sanitation in an improperly located, poorly planned establishment may prove to be an impossible task for the food service manager. The arrangement or layout of every room and its intended purpose should be clear to avoid wastage of money and space. All areas in the food service equipment should be well marked and should accommodate necessary equipment comfortably. Adequate staff rooms and sanitary accommodation and first aid should also be included in the plans. Thank you.